blood and right. Ryder and his pups had just returned from the Halloween party after rescuing the mayor and the others from the runaway ship. The moon was at its highest point in the night sky, shining its brilliant light. As Ryder walked through the entrance of the lookout, he yawned as he removed his golden knight helmet. "Well, that was certainly an interesting Halloween," he said. "I'll say," added Rocky. "And what was with that ghost ship flying past the moon?" Rubble shivered at the mention of ghost ship. "Don't talk about that. That was too scary," he said while taking off his costume. "Dude, I don't even know if I'll be able to sleep tonight," said Zuma, getting equally scared. "I had completely forgotten about that until you brought it up, Rocky," said Sky, looking a bit terrified. Don't worry, Sky. Super Chase is here to protect you," Chase told her, sounding very unsure of himself. Marshall covered his eyes while leaning toward the ground, shivering. "Can Super Chase protect me too?" he said shakily. Ryder smiled sheepishly, watching his pups get worked up over something that he was sure wasn't a big deal. "Guys, calm down. There's a logical explanation to what we saw. There's no need to lose any sleep over it," he tried to reassure. "And what's that?" asked an unconvinced Rubble. Ryder rubbed his chin, thinking quickly of a calming answer. "Well, it could have just been a cloud." "A cloud shaped exactly like a ghost ship?" Rubble argued. "I'm with Ryder," chimed in Rocky. "I'm sure it was just a cloud. With all that went on tonight, it makes sense that our imaginations would run a little wild." "But dude, we all saw it. It's pretty unlikely that all of us would imagine the same thing," Zuma countered. "Not entirely. Sometimes our minds can perceive certain figures and images the same way another's mind would," explained Ryder. "Exactly. Thank you, Ryder," Rocky co-signed smugly. "Yeah, I'm still not convinced," said Rubble. "Krakow. Yaha!" Marshall screamed, diving behind Chase, and clung to his leg, shivering. "Marshall, it's just lightning," said Ryder. "But the skies were clear not too long ago." "That's too freaky," replied Sky. The five pups began to talk amongst each other with frightened faces. Rocky and Ryder turned to face each other before huffing. Ryder then faced the group again. "I'm sure after a good night's rest we'll all be able to process things more logically," he said. Ryder, can I sleep in the lookout tonight, please?" Marshall asked, giving him the puppy dog pout. The other four pups joined him as they faced Ryder and whimpered. Rocky rolled his eyes. Ryder stroked his chin. He knew it wouldn't help the situation if he told them that they had to sleep outside. "All right, you can all sleep in here tonight," he replied. The five breathed a sigh of relief. "Thanks, Ryder," said Marshall as he licked Ryder's hand. "Well, I guess I'll be the only one sleeping in my pup house tonight," Rocky said smugly while walking off. "If I see the ghost, I'll be sure to yelp for help," he joked while the lookout doors closed behind him. Well, pups, the rest of you should prepare for bed as well, Ryder said. The 5 pups slowly made their way to the entertainment room of the lookout. Ryder walked to the entrance doors of the lookout and stepped out. He looked to the sky and noticed that many clouds were starting to gather, and that the moon had a rather eerie red tint to it. I don't recall the weather forecast mentioning a storm for tonight, he thought to himself before returning into the lookout. Lookout. Rocky was inside of his closed pup house preparing to lie down. His costume was messily placed on the floor. He turned on a little night light before sitting on the floor and getting lost in his thoughts. As much as he didn't want to admit it, the other pups' counter-arguments on what they all saw had really gotten to him. He wanted to be brave and believe that it was all their imagination, but something kept tugging at the back of his mind telling him otherwise. He felt lonely and secluded, locked inside of his pup house. He wanted to join the others, but after making fun of them while trying to cover his own fear, he simply didn't have the nerve to face them. Ryder's right, he said to himself. Maybe all we need is a good night's rest. He turned off the main light, leaving only the night light on. Within minutes he drifted off to sleep. Sleep. Mayor Goodway was finishing off the last of some Halloween candy while sitting in her recliner watching TV with a frightened expression. Oh, this late-night Halloween movie marathon is going to keep me up all night, she stated worriedly before she continued to stuff her mouth. As she crunched on the next pieces of candy, the TV and power within her house shut off. Mayor Goodway jumped with eyes darting back and forth across the room. Chicoletta, are you messing with the fuse box again? The mayor questioned.
Those who gaze at the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last.
Those who gaze upon the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last, uttered a mysterious voice. Who said that? The mayor asked as she became more uneasy. Crash. The sound of breaking glass coming from the kitchen was the only response she received. She was now in a complete panic. Wearing only her nightgown, she made a dash for the front door. Once her hand touched the doorknob, she began to call out to her beloved purse chicken. Chicoletta. Chicoletta. She called. Mommy's leaving. We need to get out of here. To the mayor's displeasure, there was no response from Chicoletta. She pulled out her cell phone and turned on the flashlight feature. Chicoletta. She called once more, her eyes searching the area. She moved the path of the light to the direction of the kitchen. She saw what looked to be loose feathers and gasped. She slowly crept closer to the kitchen, heart beating rapidly. Chicoletta, are you in there, sweet hums? The light shining from the cell phone was beginning to shake within her grasp. She stepped one foot into the kitchen and began to move the path of the light to the left. When she caught sight of something, she instantly froze and dropped her phone. What she caught sight of was Chicoletta's head covered in blood with glass shards lodged in her neck, eyes and face. The rest of her body was under the debris of a dish cabinet that had somehow detached from the wall. Ee-hee-ya. The mayor screamed a scream that seemed to echo all throughout Adventure Bay. 6 pups' tags began to flash.
After a few minutes had
All 6 drowsy members were in
Their designated spots awaiting orders.
orders.
PAW Patrol ready for action, Ryder, sir. Chase announced with a light yawn while wearing his Moon Massacre. PAW Patrol, to the lookout, Ryder said, as the 6 pups' tags began to flash. After a few minutes had passed, all 6 drowsy members were in their designated spots awaiting orders. PAW Patrol ready for action, Ryder, sir. Chase announced with a light yawn while wearing his spy gear. Guys? What's with the moon? Zuma said as he stared out of the tower windows at the red glowing sphere. That's a blood moon, shouted Rubble in a panic. A blood moon? Oh no. I'm really scared now. Super Chase didn't sign up for this. What's a blood moon? All the pups turned to face Marshall. What? I think the moon looks good in red, he replied happily. Rubble faced palmed himself. Marshall, blood moons mean that something bad is about to happen. Oh, replied the Dally as his ears drooped. Pups, we need to focus on the mission, Ryder announced, bringing everyone's attention back. Ryder tapped his pup pad and brought up the big screen display. I received an emergency call from Mayor Goodway not too long ago. She seemed really distressed. She wouldn't stop crying and kept repeating Chicoletta over and over, he said while a cartoon image of a crying Mayor Goodway appeared on the big screen. I couldn't make out anything else she was saying, but if I had to guess, I would say that Chicoletta must be in some kind of trouble. He pressed another button on his pup pad and all 6 pup tags appeared on the screen. Since we don't have many details, we'll go ahead and have all paws on deck just in case. Great. Now some of us won't have to be left here alone, Rubble replied, slightly relieved, gaining a nod from a few of the others. All right. PAW Patrol is on a roll, Ryder shouted, pumping his fist in the air. However, right after finishing his catchphrase, all power within the lookout was unexpectedly shut off.
Those who gaze at the moon as I pass.
Those who gaze upon the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last. The mysterious voice rang around the room of the lookout. Eha. I don't want to die, Rubble screamed as he ran off with tears in his eyes. Rubble, wait, Ryder called out to him. Rubble had enough. He sprinted to the slide and slid out of the lookout. Unbeknownst to him, the rotation mechanism had rotated and moved Sky's pup house to the end of the slide. Sky's pup house transformed into her copter and the propeller blades began to spin at an incredible speed. The others saw this from the tower window and tried desperately to call out to the bulldog. Nearing the end of the slide, Rubble's ears picked up the sound of the propeller. Aha! That's not my rig, he yelled as he frantically tried to move his paws as fast as he could and climb back up the slide, but to his disadvantage, his paws could not grip the slide. With tears in his eyes, he called for help. Ride dash. Buzz. Rubble. The group watched in horror as fur, skin, flesh, and bones were torn apart from the bulldog's body, piece by piece from the bottom up. When nothing was left, the propeller blades slowed down and came to a complete stop. They were coated with blood and fleshy remains. Crimson-covered entrails decorated the copter, slide, grass, and concrete. Rubble's pup tag and collar were laid on the ground shimmering in red with a chunk of the bulldog's neck fur attached to it. Sky bursted into a painful heart-wrenching cry. Marshall sat with his hands on his head, eyes wide, frozen in shock with tears dripping down his cheeks. Rocky held his mouth to stop himself from spewing vomit while his tears flowed freely. Zuma and Chase were looking away, bawling their eyes out. Ryder himself just stood there motionless as he dropped his pup pad to the floor. "I don't understand. How could that have happened?" he asked, staring into space. "This can't be real." He fell to his knees and covered his face with his hands, letting out sob after sob. Sob. Mayor Goodway was still weeping uncontrollably in the dark at the spot where a deceased Chicoletta lay. "Ryder, please hurry," she wailed through tears. The lights began to flicker on and off again repeatedly. "Those who gaze upon the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last."
Those who gaze at the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last.
"Last," spoke the familiar voice. "No, oh, she screamed as she ran towards the front door. She tried to turn the knob, but found that it would not budge. She heard heavy footsteps coming from the kitchen, but when she turned her head to face the direction, no one was there. She kept her eyes peeled in the same direction as the footsteps sounded, as if they were coming closer and closer. Mayor Goodway backed up against the front door, still waiting to see the source of the footsteps, when suddenly, they stopped. The mayor was panting and breathing heavily. She closed her eyes as she tried to relax her breathing and calm herself. She opened her eyes and screamed. "Oh!" There before her stood a man dressed in pirate attire. He had a black beard that was drenched in blood, a sharp bloody hook that was shaped much like a curved knife, an eye patch over one eye, and the other eye was just a red eyeball which had neither an iris nor pupil. Before the mayor could finish her scream, the mysterious man cut it short as he jabbed his hook deep into her neck and quickly but smoothly ripped it open. Crimson waves began to spew from the mayor's neck, staining her purely white nightgown, and trickle from her mouth while her head tilted back as if it was a can opened by a can opener. Before her now lifeless body was able to hit the floor, the mysterious murderer vanished. Moon Massacre. Ryder continued to sob in the dark on the lookout floor, blaming himself for what happened to Rubble. "I'm so sorry, Rubble. I'm so sorry. The rotation mechanisms never malfunctioned like that before. The entrance to the slide is supposed to scan each of you and identify your personal vehicle." He slammed his fist on the floor. "I should have kept constant maintenance on it. This is all my fault." He cried heavily. Chase tried his best to comfort him while he tried to hold himself together. Rocky, with tear-stained eyes, was searching something on Ryder's pup pad, tapping his paw here and there across the screen. The words that had been spoken by the unknown voice still rung around in his head. "Those who gaze upon the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last."
Those who gaze at the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last.
He thought to himself, trying to decipher the terrible riddle. His eyes widened as realization settled on him. He began to search, flying ghost ship passing by moon. A picture of the exact same ghost ship passing a moon appeared on the screen in an electronic article. "Guys," He called out to the others in a shaky voice. I know this is a bad time, but you need to hear this. I pulled up an article on the ghost ship we saw. It says that not many have seen the paranormal scene, but if you do happen to see it, it's considered to be a bad omen. Those who have seen the ship float past the moon have either been involved in freak accidents that led to their death or have been murdered. The reporter who captured this photo was found the next day hanging from a flagpole by his intestines. Rocky gagged at the thought of that scene, also remembering rubble for a split second before a tear trickled down his cheek. He wiped his eyes before continuing to read the article. Sniff according to legend, the name of the ship is called the Reaper. The Reaper was a pirate ship that belonged to a pirate who went by the name Bloodbeard. Bloodbeard was a cold-blooded pirate. He murdered the innocent and took from them, no matter the circumstance. One night after pillaging the town which is now known as Adventure Bay, the king ordered him to be found and executed. Bloodbeard and his crew tried to sail away using the dark night and cloudy skies as cover, but the clouds moved from in front of the moon and the light shining from it illuminated the ocean, giving away the pirates' position. The king's soldiers fired a barrage of cannonballs from the pier and sunk Bloodbeard's ship, leaving no trace of the pirates. Rocky looked back at the picture of the ship in the article. His eyes were concentrating hard as if he had seen the vessel before. He gasped. This ship. If I can remember right, it's the same ship that Zuma was trapped under when we saved the mare pups, he stated. Sky walked towards the mixed breed with fear in her eyes. So does that mean everyone who sees the ship pass the moon dies? Rocky sat the pup pad down before lowering his head in silence. That's what it sounds like. He answered. The ghost is real. It's real. Tears began to fill his eyes again as he continued. I should have sided with you guys. I shouldn't have teased you for believing. If I would have agreed, maybe Ryder would have taken it more seriously and rubble wouldn't be dashed. He trailed off while little droplets splashed on the floor. I want rubble back. Rocky screamed, throwing his hat across the room. I was just as scared as you guys. The difference is you were all brave enough to admit it, he stated with tears pouring down. I'm the coward. The coward who teased his friends for being scared. His friends. It should have been me who went down the slide and he was cut off by a paw placed over his mouth. He looked up to see a tearful Sky. Rocky, stop. She pleaded through tears. You're hurting us. Rocky looked up to see everyone next to him with wide tearful eyes before being ambushed by a hug. Rocky, please. Don't ever say that again, please. Zuma pled as he embraced him with worry. Chase stepped forward, placing a boot on his shoulder. None of us blame you or Ryder, Chase said, while Marshall nodded with agreement behind him. An important detail clicked within the Dalmatian's mind. Guys, we all saw it, he stated. That's right. Agreed Sky. Us, Captain Turbot, Alex, Mr. Porter, Katie, Callie, Mayor Goodway, and Chicoletta. Ryder's eyes shot open. Oh no. Mayor Goodway, he said, remembering the mayor's distressed call. He quickly picked his pup pad up off of the floor and tried to call the mayor. No one answered. We have to go and check on the others. Once we're all together, we can try and find a safe place. I'll go and check on Mayor Goodway and Chicoletta. Chase and Marshall, you two go and check on Alex and Mr. Porter. Sky and Zuma, you check on Captain Turbot. Rocky and Ryder paused for a moment before finishing his sentence. He wasn't used to being one pup short, but this was no time to be consumed by grief. It's all right, Ryder. I can go check on Katie and Callie alone. Rocky answered, staring at the floor sadly. Are you sure? Ryder asked, regaining his composure. Yeah. It's time for me to be brave. Rocky answered. Okay. PAW Patrol is on a roll. Ryder announced with not even the tiniest bit of enthusiasm and happiness that he normally shows when saying the phrase. Spy Chase headed for the slide. "Wait!" shouted Ryder. "Don't take the slide. I don't want to take any chances." He pulled out his pup pad and began tapping across the screen. "But sir, how will we get down?" Chase asked, curious. "The slide and elevator are the only ways down and the power is out." "This'll just take a sec," Ryder replied, still tapping his screen. "Okay. Auxiliary power on," he shouted after tapping one last button. The power all around the lookout flashed back on and the sound of some machines whirring and computers booting up could be heard. Ryder ran to the elevator with the 5 following him and they descended to the ground floor. As the elevator door opened, Ryder wore a serious expression. "Pups, please be careful," said Ryder. The 5 slowly nodded. "There's no way I can get my ATV, so I guess I'll have to." Ryder paused before finishing. "Take Rubble's rig." Ryder shook his head. "Okay pups, let's head outside," he commanded. The 5 pups exited through the automatic doors as they opened and closed. Once outside, they waited for Ryder to join them. Ryder walked towards the exit doors. The doors would not budge.
Those who gaze at the moon as I pass shall soon find that night to be their last.
Those who... Ryder's heart stopped upon hearing the familiar voice and once again. The power within the lookout had shut off.
Hallo Leute, schneller Update. Wie wollt ihr bleiben, weil ich muss jetzt Sachen machen und so und deswegen, wir werden vielleicht hier das Stream beenden. Wir haben nur jetzt 3 Parts geschafft und wir schauen, wie wir jetzt mit dem Rest von den 5 Parts, die noch fehlen. Ja, das werden wir herausfinden in den nächsten Livestream. Und ja Leute, wir sehen uns im nächsten Livestream und einen schönen Tag noch und adios!